What's up and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to discuss Borderlands 2 on the PS Vita, released May 13th of 2015, and man, to say I was excited for this thing would be an absolute understatement. Maybe one day I'll go into the story of getting it, but I did actually get the game bundled with my PS Vita. But how is it today, an entire decade later?
Wait a minute, you're not dead! Yes!
Well, before we tear the band-aid off, I just want to say that it's still impressive to me that they were able to fit Borderlands 2 on this thing. And not just it, but the first two main DLC campaigns, as well as both of the extra Vault Hunters, that being Krieg and Gage, alongside the level 61 upgrade pack, meaning that there are no OP levels, which honestly, even though I personally don't mind them, it's cool to think that there's a version of the game that's complete without them. Now, I didn't want to emulate it because I do still own my original PS Vita alongside the Borderlands 2 that came with it, but a capture card for a PS Vita is a little harder to find than I anticipated, and the alternate method is to jailbreak the device, which I really just don't want to do. So I'll toss in some footage that I captured of me playing, but since it's rather blah to look at, I will just be using the PC version for a majority of this video. With that being said, how is it? Well, it's not the best, that's for sure. Now, like I said, it's impressive that they've stuck a massive game like Borderlands 2 onto the PlayStation Vita. And the first thing that you'll notice that had to be sacrificed to make this thing run on the PlayStation Vita is the frame rate. While in the early game, it's not so bad. The further you go in the game, the worse it gets. For a handheld BL2 in 2015, you can't really expect it to be smooth like the console or PC versions that we have today, because it was never going to be that. But the limitations do go a bit deeper here, so let's just get into it. So yes, all of your skill trees are the exact same, but since it never received all of the proper patches, it's definitely one of the buggier, slower, and harder to play ports of Borderlands 2. For me though, I still find the game quite charming, and I don't know what it is, but it's like when I get up from my desk and I come back and I just see Borderlands 2 on that small little screen, it's just something that I never thought I would have seen when I first played the game as a kid. So every time that I see the game running on the PS Vita, it does kind of take me back to when I first saw Borderlands 2 running on a PlayStation Vita. But looking back today, its limitations and age really do make themselves known, as to counteract with the frame rate that's literally attempting to make the PS Vita explode. I'm serious, after playing for 20 minutes of this game on the Vita, the device starts to really get hot. And I also want to mention that I've got the original model of the Vita, not the slim model, but still, I don't remember this thing turning into an absolute volcano just for playing BL2. But to try and get as close to 30 FPS as they could, you'll notice that the enemies just kind of evaporate into the air upon getting killed. There's less enemies that spawn in general, and the AI of the enemies seems to be just a bit dumber as well, which I think, while yeah, these are all drawbacks and disadvantages of this port, I also find them necessary to get this game to run at all, which sucks because even after all of that, the game still averages around 20 to 25 FPS rather than the goal of 30. And I'm sure you can tell, there's some points in the game where it will actually dip below 20 frames a second, which is just damn near unplayable in 2024. I think it's unfortunate that it doesn't really hold up these days, as I can even remember back when it was launched that it was getting ripped apart online, you know, kind of like the Borderlands movie is these days. And another thing that I want to point out is that the visual pollution of this port is completely awful because of the downgraded graphics, which range from looking okay to pretty muddy at times. It's making a lot of the particle effects and explosions just very visually jarring. Another thing that I want to talk about is the loading screens. On PC or even modern consoles, they're very quick and it doesn't bother most people, right? Well, if you were thinking of farming on the PS Vita, you should probably think again, because we're talking about 1 minute long loading screens. It's even longer than the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions of the game, which yeah, 1 minute isn't that long in the grand scheme of things. But compared to the 5 seconds it takes on PC or your Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5, or even the last gen consoles, Xbox One and PlayStation 4, yeah, it's pretty rough. But back to the PS3 version for a moment. One thing that I want to mention that was actually a really cool feature in my opinion is that if you had the game on PlayStation 3 and the Vita, you could save on your characters between Vita and console. So if you had, let's say, like a level 61 Salvador over on the PS3, as long as you have it on your PSN account and you have online on that account that you're paying for, of course, you could easily switch between the two. Obviously now, the Vita's online capabilities are no more, so even if I had a PlayStation 3, there wouldn't be a way for anybody to do this today. I still think it was a really cool feature, and I'd like to know if any of you guys actually did take advantage of that back in the day. Another thing that I wanted to touch on was the controls. While they are pretty much what you'd expect, it's how you throw grenades, use your action skill, and sprinting that I want to discuss, as you'll use the touchscreen to throw grenades and use your action skill, which can be kind of awkward at times to pull off. Flipping a thumb off the thumbstick to touch the screen just puts you at a bigger chance to get down, I feel like. Definitely think they could have found a better way to work out how to do those actions, but I don't actually have any issue with the sprint. You'll use this big touchpad on the back, which usually you'll only have to put one finger on to activate the sprint. And on this model of the Vita that I have, you have slightly bigger spots to rest your hands without hitting the touchpad on the back, which I see is a big disadvantage over the Vita Slim, as its spots to put your hands are much smaller and overall just not as comfortable on the hands. So if you were thinking of picking up BL2 on the Vita, definitely get the OG model, but if we're being honest, does the Vita port of Borderlands 2 hold up 10 years later? No. I'd recommend just getting it on any other console or even PC if at all available to you, because yeah, this version can get the job done, it's just not the optimal way to play BL2. As a matter of fact, I'd argue that it's the worst way to play Borderlands 2. I've seen a handful of comments from the Vita players this year, which is interesting to see in my eyes, as I hold some nostalgia to this game in even the really rough Vita version. Borderlands 2 being my favorite game of all time, and its player base being spread across so many different consoles, I just want any of the current Vita players that are still out there to know that you matter too. And I say that because I don't see anybody mention this version of the game anymore. And while yeah, it's very rough around the edges, that doesn't take away from its history of being the very first on-the-go experience of Borderlands 2. Fast forward to today, and yeah, you can get this on Switch, which does have its own limitations, but it's a 100% complete version of the game and a lot better running than the PS Vita version. So if you're looking for a handheld version of the game, I'd definitely pursue that route, or maybe even a Steam Deck if your wallet is fatter than Little Uzi's.
In reality, I'm 5'4", stand on my money now, I'm 6'6", hit her once, now she dismissed.
But in summary, I had fun looking back on a simpler version of the game. Even with the issues that it has, I still had a good time going back and trying it out for you guys. This version of the game will never leave my mind because of the weird history that it has, which I think should be preserved, and that's why I'm here today, checking it out again. As it may not be a great version of the game, I still had a lot of fun playing it. Now I have to ask, what do you guys think of the Vita version of Borderlands 2? Have you ever played it yourself? And if you have, what did you think? I'm also very curious on what playing this version online would have looked like. So if you have any multiplayer stories, I'd love to hear those in the comments as well. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video till the end. And if you did enjoy it, please smash a like on it and subscribe if you guys are new. I will leave a playlist with all of my Borderlands retrospectives at the end screen as well. So please follow me on Twitter, because I love giving little snippets to upcoming videos over there, as well as polls for you guys to decide on upcoming projects. So please do that if you haven't already. But most importantly, remember that I love you all to death. I want you to take it easy out there, stay safe, and with that, I will see you all in the next one.